First contact, first blood. The anomaly appeared without warning, a ripple in spacetime that Earth's scientists had never witnessed before. Within hours, the solar system's early warning system detected a massive vessel materializing just beyond Mars' orbit. Its hull was scorched and pockmarked, systems barely functioning as it limped toward Earth on what appeared to be its last reserves of power. Admiral Helena Thorne stood on the bridge of the UES Sentinel, Earth's flagship defender, watching the tactical display with narrowed eyes. At 56, she'd seen enough in her military career to know when something was about to change everything. Status of the unknown vessel, she demanded, her voice cutting through the tension. Lieutenant Rivera responded immediately, "Still on approach, Admiral. Our scans show catastrophic damage to over 60% of their systems. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, appears to be a distress signal." Thorne's jaw tightened. "Any weapon signature?" "Weapon systems appear disabled, ma'am." "But..." Rivera hesitated, "The technology is unlike anything we've catalogued before." The decision before Thorne was monumental. Earth had achieved limited interplanetary travel but had yet to encounter intelligent alien life. Now, a damaged alien vessel approached, and humanity's first contact protocol consisted of little more than theoretical discussions. "Open a communication channel," she ordered finally. The screen flickered to life, revealing a being that appeared humanoid but was unmistakably alien. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent pattern that pulsed gently, eyes larger than a human's with vertical pupils. The alien's voice came through the translator as melodic but urgent. "I am Ambassador Vela of the Caridian Confederation. We come seeking sanctuary from those who pursue us. Please, our remaining people will perish without your assistance." Within 24 hours, Earth's Defense Council convened in Geneva. Ambassador Vela stood before the assembled world leaders, her skin's luminescence dimmed from exhaustion. "The Domina Collective has consumed 17 systems before reaching ours," she explained, projecting a holographic map of a section of the galaxy. "They do not negotiate. They do not compromise. They simply arrive, demand absolute submission, and annihilate any resistance." "With respect, Ambassador," the Russian Federation representative interrupted, "why come to Earth? We are hardly the most advanced civilization if what you describe exists." Vela's skin pulsed momentarily brighter. "Because you are unexpected. The Dominas follow patterns of conquest based on technological advancement paths. Your species," she paused, searching for words, "develops differently. You take multiple paths simultaneously, creating unpredictable outcomes. We've observed your history. Where we see specialization as efficiency, you create redundancy. Where we seek perfection in a single solution, you maintain alternatives." Admiral Thorne leaned forward. "You mean our messiness might be an advantage?" "Precisely," Vela replied. "The Dominas cannot predict what they do not understand. And they do not understand humans." Dr. Victor Riker, Earth's leading xenobiologist, spent the next 3 days examining the Caridian refugees. His report to the Council was straightforward: "They're telling the truth. Their physiological responses match consistent trauma patterns. Something terrifying is chasing them." The Council's debate raged for another 2 days until an unmistakable signal pinged at the edge of the solar system. A probe, sleek, black, and radiating power unlike anything Earth had developed, transmitted a single message before Earth's defensive systems destroyed it. "Surrender the Caridian fugitives or face extinction. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply." The chamber fell silent until Admiral Thorne stood. "They've made their intentions clear. The question now is whether we stand with the Caridians or sacrifice them to buy ourselves time." Lieutenant Nadia Patel, the youngest officer ever to reach the tactical division of Earth's Space Force, stepped forward when called upon. "If what Ambassador Vela says is true, buying time won't help us. These Dominas will come regardless. At least with the Caridians, we gain access to technology and information." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Earth would stand with the refugees. Within hours, the Caridian engineers were working alongside Earth's best minds. Professor Riker oversaw the integration of their medical knowledge with human biological understanding, while Lieutenant Patel collaborated with the Caridian tactical officer, Zenith. "Your combat strategies are unconventional," Zenith observed as Patel outlined a defensive approach for the solar system. "You mean chaotic," Patel corrected with a slight smile. "Indeed. The Dominas expect methodical resistance. Their war algorithms predict standard defensive formations." "Well," Patel said, highlighting a complex web of overlapping fields of fire and asymmetrical positioning, "let's give them something their algorithms can't process." Ambassador Vela met with Admiral Thorne privately that evening. "Your species has made a choice that may doom you," she said solemnly. "I must know, why risk everything for beings you just met?" Thorne looked out at the stars visible from the observation deck. "Humanity has fought itself for most of our history. We're finally starting to understand that survival requires cooperation, not conquest. If we abandon you now, what does that say about who we're becoming? Besides," she added with a grim smile, "someone needs to teach these Dominas that not everyone bows to bullies." 7 days later, the Domina scout fleet arrived, 15 vessels of varying sizes, all bearing the same obsidian hull configuration. Earth's newly retrofitted defense ships moved into position, incorporating Caridian shield technology with human missile systems. "They're transmitting," Communications Officer Ramirez reported on the Sentinel's bridge. "On screen," Thorne ordered. The Domina commander appeared, a being with gray, chitinous features and multiple eyes arranged in a semicircle around its head. "Primitive species," it began without preamble, "you harbor criminals against the collective. Surrender them or be reduced to component atoms." Thorne stood tall. "We are Earth. We determine our own destiny and choose our own friends. If you want the Caridians, you'll have to go through us." "So be it," the Domina replied without emotion. "Your extinction will be educational for other developing worlds." As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Patel's voice came through the comms. "All ships in position, Admiral. Defense Pattern Omega is engaged." Admiral Thorne took one last look at the tactical display, the Domina ships moving into a perfect formation that any military strategist would recognize as textbook superiority positioning. "Too bad we didn't read that textbook," she murmured, then raised her voice. "All ships, commence Operation Thunderbolt." The battle for Earth's future had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn why crossing humans was a fatal mistake. The alliance forged. Dr. Emmett Riker hadn't slept in 36 hours, but his eyes remained fixed on the holographic display where Caridian biotechnology merged with human engineering principles. The victory against the Domina scout fleet had bought them precious time, but not much. "Their mistake was underestimating our willingness to improvise," Lieutenant Patel explained to the joint Human-Caridian tactical team. The room buzzed with activity as analysts reviewed combat footage. They expected a traditional defense formation. When we scattered and attacked from multiple vectors simultaneously, their targeting systems couldn't prioritize. Zenith, the Caridian tactical officer, shook his head in amazement. His crystalline skin patterns pulsed with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Such strategies would be considered reckless among our people. We value precision and calculated risk." "Sometimes recklessness is exactly what you need," Patel replied with a grim smile. "The Dominas expect logical responses. We need to be illogical." Across the facility, Ambassador Vela observed Earth's response to the impending threat with fascination. Within days of the scout fleet's destruction, humanity had mobilized on a global scale not seen since the climate wars of the previous century. Old enemies became allies, resources were pooled, and manufacturing facilities worldwide were retooling for what Earth was now calling the Stellar Defense Initiative. "Your species adapts with remarkable speed," she commented to Admiral Thorne as they toured a repurposed automobile factory now producing power cells for spacecraft shields based on Caridian designs. Thorne's weathered face showed the strain of command, but her eyes remained sharp. Necessity is the mother of invention, Ambassador. Humanity has always been at its best with its back against the wall. An interesting idiom, Vela noted. Among Caridians, being cornered is considered the end. For humans, it seems to be merely a beginning. The factory floor below them hummed with activity as workers who just weeks before had been assembling luxury vehicles now calibrated alien technology alongside Caridian engineers. The sight would have been unimaginable months ago, humans working side by side with beings from another world. In the medical wing, Dr. Riker made a breakthrough that even he hadn't anticipated. The Caridian physiology, while different from human biology, shared certain fundamental principles that allowed for unprecedented medical applications. It's extraordinary, he explained to his team as they examined the results. The Caridian cellular regeneration mechanism can be modified to work with human tissue. This could revolutionize our trauma treatment. His colleague, Dr. Farida Hassan, looked skeptical. We're in the middle of preparing for an alien invasion, and you want to focus on medical applications? Riker's tired eyes lit up. Don't you see? This is exactly why we're fighting. Not just for survival, but for what we can learn from each other. The Dominans want to conquer and control. We want to grow and understand. In the orbital shipyards, Commander Jackson Way oversaw the retrofit of civilian vessels into combat support ships. Mining vessels with industrial cutting lasers were being repurposed as close combat fighters. Passenger shuttles became medical evacuation craft. Even scientific research vessels found new purpose as electronic warfare platforms. It's not pretty, Way admitted to Lieutenant Patel during an inspection, but it's functional. And more importantly, it's unexpected. Patel ran her hand along the retrofitted hull of what had once been a luxury cruise ship, now bristling with weapon mounts. The Dominas fight with purpose-built warships. Each vessel class has a specific role and never deviates from it. But these, she gestured to the mismatched fleet taking shape around them, these don't fit any category they've encountered before. Far from the busy preparations, Admiral Thorne met privately with the Joint Chiefs and world leaders to present a sobering assessment. The scout fleet was just that, scouts. Our intelligence, combined with Caridian information, suggests the main Domina force will arrive within 3 weeks. We're talking hundreds, possibly thousands of ships. The president of the African Union leaned forward. Can we win against such numbers? Thorne didn't hesitate. Not conventionally, no. But conventional warfare isn't our plan. On the tactical display, she brought up Lieutenant Patel's audacious defense strategy, a complex web of unpredictable movements, false targets, and guerrilla tactics adapted for space warfare. The Dominas rely on predictability and overwhelming force, Thorne explained. We'll give them neither. 2 weeks into the preparations, the Sentinel's long-range sensors detected multiple gravitational distortions forming at the edge of the solar system. Not the main Domina fleet, but another scout force, 3 times larger than the first. They're adapting, Zenith observed grimly as they studied the incoming enemy formation. This pattern is more fluid, less rigid than typical Domina tactics. Lieutenant Patel nodded. They're learning from their mistake. We need to show them something new. What followed was a battle unlike anything Earth's military had ever executed. Instead of meeting the Domina force head-on, Earth's ships engaged in what Patel called phantom warfare, appearing briefly to strike before disappearing into the sensor shadows of planets, moons, and asteroid fields. The human Caridian ships operated in small, autonomous units without central command, making their movements impossible to predict. Civilian communication satellites had been reprogrammed to broadcast conflicting signals, creating electronic ghosts that confused Domina targeting systems. When the battle ended 16 hours later, Earth had lost 17 ships, but the entire Domina scout force had been neutralized. In the aftermath, as damage reports flooded in, Ambassador Vela found Admiral Thorne in the observation lounge, staring at the stars. Your tactics were unorthodox, Vela said. But effective, Thorne replied without looking away from the viewport. Yes, but at what cost? 17 ships, hundreds of lives. Thorn turned to face her. Every single one of those captains knew what they were fighting for, Ambassador. Not just for Earth, but for the principle that no species has the right to dominate another. Vela's skin dimmed in what Thorn had come to recognize as sadness. My people tried traditional resistance. We lost our homeworld and billions of lives. We're not fighting a traditional war, Thorn assured her. Lieutenant Patel has a saying, when the enemy expects chess, play poker. The ambassador's translator struggled with the idiom, but she understood the intent. The Dominas believe themselves to be inevitable. They've never encountered a force that truly surprised them. Well, Thorn said with grim determination, surprises are one thing humans excel at delivering. As they spoke, Dr. Riker was making another discovery in his lab, one that would prove even more significant than his medical breakthrough. The Caridian communication technology, when combined with human quantum computing principles, created a system that could penetrate Domina encryption. We can listen to their commands, he explained excitedly to Lieutenant Patel when she visited his lab. Maybe even interfere with them. Patel's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. If we can disrupt their command structure. Exactly, Riker confirmed. Their rigid hierarchy becomes a weakness. As Earth prepared for the arrival of the main Domina fleet, a new sense of possibility emerged among the joint human-Caridian forces. They remained outmatched in numbers and raw power, but with each passing day, the alliance grew stronger, more integrated, more innovative. The galaxy was about to witness what happened when humanity's most defining trait, adaptability, was backed into a corner and given a cause worth fighting for. Trial by fire. The main Domina fleet arrived with terrifying majesty, hundreds of obsidian vessels arranged in perfect geometric formations, their hulls absorbing rather than reflecting light. It was a darkness that consumed the stars behind it, a void that moved with purpose. From the command center beneath Geneva, Admiral Thorn watched the tactical display with the collected leadership of Earth and the remaining Caridians. The room was silent as the scale of the threat became clear. Their flagship is twice the size we anticipated, Zenith said, breaking the silence. The Caridians' luminescent patterns had dimmed to an anxious flicker. The Domina transmission came moments later, displayed on the main screen. Supreme Commander Voss of the Collective appeared, the multiple eyes arranged around its chitinous head focusing independently before settling on Admiral Thorn. Your species has proven more troublesome than anticipated, Voss stated without emotion. This is not a compliment. It is merely an observation that will be studied after your extinction. Surrender the Caridian fugitives and submit to assimilation. This is your only warning. Thorn didn't hesitate. We've heard your terms before. Our answer remains the same. Unfortunate, Voss replied. Your resistance will be educational but brief. As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Patel activated the deployment sequence they'd been preparing for weeks. Operation Hydra is commencing, Admiral. Across the solar system, Earth's defensive forces dispersed in what appeared to be chaotic retreat but was actually a carefully orchestrated distribution. The strategy wasn't to meet the overwhelming Domina force directly, that would be suicide. Instead, they would make the entire solar system a battlefield. Colonel Marcus Weston commanded the Jupiter Defense Group, a collection of retrofitted mining vessels and hastily armed transport ships hiding within the gas giant's turbulent atmosphere. As the Domina fleet bifurcated to begin its systematic approach to Earth, he gave the order. Commence mining protocols. It was deliberately obscure language, one that would confuse any Domina surveillance. The Jupiter group had spent weeks secretly placing thousands of modified mining charges throughout the asteroid belt. Now, as a portion of the Domina fleet moved through that region, those charges detonated. The explosions themselves caused minimal damage to the advanced Domina ships. But that wasn't the objective. The real purpose was the debris field, millions of asteroid fragments propelled at various velocities in seemingly random patterns. The Dominas rely on formation tactics, Colonel Weston had explained during planning. Their ships maintain precise distances for optimal targeting and defense coverage. If we disrupt those formations. On the tactical display, Admiral Thorne watched as the elegant Domina formation disintegrated into confusion as ships maneuvered to avoid the asteroid debris. Mars Group, you're up, she ordered. Lieutenant Commander Hidalgo led the Mars contingent, smaller, faster ships that had been hiding on the planet's surface and in orbit around its moons. As the Domina forces struggled to re-establish their formations, Hidalgo's ship struck with surgical precision, targeting propulsion systems and communication arrays before disappearing back into sensor shadows. The battle spread across the solar system over the next 3 days. Earth forces never engaged directly for long, instead using hit-and-run tactics that leveraged their knowledge of the terrain, the planetary bodies, radiation belts, and gravitational anomalies familiar to human pilots but foreign to the Dominas. We're sustaining heavy losses, Lieutenant Patel reported grimly at the end of the 3rd day. 43% of our forces are disabled or destroyed. And the Dominas? Thorne asked. Approximately 15% of their fleet has been neutralized, Patel answered. But they're adapting faster than we anticipated. Dr. Riker entered the command center, his uniform rumpled from days without proper rest. Admiral, we've completed the integration of the Caridian quantum communication system with our disruptive technologies. We're ready to deploy the virus. This was the gambit they'd been saving, a hybrid electronic warfare weapon designed to infiltrate and disrupt the Domina command and control systems. Based on Dr. Riker's breakthrough and further developed by a global team of human and Caridian programmers, it represented their best hope. Deploy when ready, Thorne ordered. The effect wasn't immediately obvious on the tactical display. But within hours, reports began flowing in from the scattered Earth forces. Domina ships were responding more slowly, their coordinated attacks becoming disjointed. It's working, Patel said, allowing herself a small smile. Their encrypted channels are compromised. Their ships can't coordinate effectively. For a moment, hope surged through the command center. Then the tactical display flickered, showing a massive energy surge from the Domina flagship. They're deploying some kind of system-wide pulse, Zenith warned, his skin patterns flashing in alarm. The pulse swept through the solar system, temporarily disabling both Domina and Earth ships alike. But the Dominas recovered faster, their redundant systems coming back online within minutes while Earth vessels struggled. They sacrificed their own ships to neutralize our advantage, Admiral Thorne realized with grim admiration. They're more adaptable than we thought. What followed was the darkest phase of the battle. With many Earth ships temporarily disabled, the Dominas pressed their advantage, methodically destroying the vulnerable vessels. Colonel Weston's Jupiter group was decimated. The Mars contingent under Hidalgo was forced to scatter, many ships unable to escape. Ambassador Vela watched the tactical display with growing horror. This is how it happened at our homeworld, she whispered. The moment we thought we had found an advantage. This isn't over, Thorne interrupted fiercely. Lieutenant Patel, initiate Protocol Lazarus. Protocol Lazarus had been their most closely guarded contingency, one so desperate it had only been shared with ship commanders who volunteered. As the command was given, damaged Earth vessels that appeared derelict suddenly reactivated, many on collision courses with Domina ships. They're sacrificing themselves, Vela realized. They're giving the rest of us a chance, Thorne corrected. The sacrifice of these brave crews created enough chaos for Earth's remaining forces to regroup. Commander Wei, now leading the combined fleet after Hidalgo's ship was destroyed, executed a series of maneuvers that drew the Dominas into Mars' orbital defense grid, a network of energy weapons that had been disguised as communication satellites. The battle raged for another 36 hours before the remaining Domina ships finally withdrew to regroup beyond Neptune's orbit. Earth had survived, but at tremendous cost. Over 60% of their fleet was destroyed, thousands of lives lost. In the aftermath, Admiral Thorne stood before the unified Earth government and the Caridian leadership. We have won a battle, not the war, she stated bluntly. The Dominas will return, and they'll have analyzed our tactics. We need something they cannot anticipate, cannot counter. From the back of the room, Dr. Riker stepped forward. I believe I have found it, Admiral. The Caridians have a technology, something they've never used in warfare because their ethical principles forbid it. But combined with human ingenuity. He displayed a schematic that caused gasps from the Caridian representatives. Ambassador Vela's skin patterns flashed in shock. That would be unconscionable. To interfere with consciousness itself. We're fighting for our survival, Thorne countered. And sometimes survival requires crossing lines we never thought we would. As the debate raged, Lieutenant Patel studied the schematic with growing understanding. It wasn't a conventional weapon, it was something far more profound. Something that would challenge the very nature of the Domina Collective's unified consciousness. If we do this, she said quietly to Admiral Thorne, we may save Earth. But we'll also be proving that humans are exactly what the galaxy fears, beings willing to do anything to win. Thorne met her gaze steadily. Sometimes, Lieutenant, the most important thing isn't how the galaxy sees us, but that we're still around to care what they think. The decision was made. Earth would cross a line that the Caridians couldn't, cross themselves. The final confrontation with the Dominas would determine not just humanity's survival, but what kind of species would emerge from this crucible of fire.